mean, that's kind of like what we talked about the other day. How if you dress fly in a 3-piece suit, and you have a child, and you have them wearing hand-me-downs, that don't match. You're not gonna go to church. Or you're not gonna go out. You know, a lot of times, like if we go somewhere, my wife is like, "Hey, make sure they look good because they're a reflection of us." And so that's like with God. When we go, and we might not be, you know, sometimes we might be dressed up, but we're not physically or mentally
right.
You know, dressed right because we're not with Him. It kind of shows people like, okay, you're not really getting what you really need to get. Right. And like you said, when you get passed on that promotion, because you're somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Right.
You're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. And you're cutting yourself short. You got to understand, you're a child of the Most High.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're royalty. You tell me, have you ever seen any other prince dressed down?
No.
They always straight fly.
It's always.
Have you ever seen them in the Honda?
No, I haven't seen him in the Honda. I haven't seen him in the Honda, you know.
No. I mean, we're not knocking Honda. It's when you know where you come from.
Right.
You say, hey, look, this is my standard. And I think that's what we don't do.
Yeah.
I think we don't set our standards of, it's not being, this is who I am, and I'm going to wear what I want to wear, and being snobby about it.
No,
you know.
It's a certain humility that comes with it. And your life is a reflection of your standards.
Right.
You know, your relationship is a reflection of your standards.
Right.
You know, your children are a reflection of your standards. Car you drive is a reflection of your standard. It kind of goes back to what I talked about the other day, identity. You know, you will only produce results that are consistent with how you see yourself.
Right.
Self-image determines self-conduct. Right. So the results in your life are a reflection of how you see yourself. If you out of shape, if you broke, if your marriage is in shambles, because this is how you identify yourself. You have identified with that behavior. So therefore you keep producing it.
Right.
The moment you shift your identity and you start to see yourself, let's say, fit, you know what I mean? You start to see yourself as a fit, athletic person, you are going to automatically create disciplines and habits and rituals that are going to keep you consistent with that new image of yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think discipline is overrated. You know, when you get that self-image right, you automatically create those things that's going to keep you consistent with that new image.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So take this Bill Gates, for instance. Bill Gates, what's his identity? Billionaire. You see what I'm saying? It's billionaire, that's part of his identity. Now he's done a lot of charity work, philanthropy, doing a lot of great things in the world outside of his company, Microsoft.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But this is consistent with who? With what? How he sees himself.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? If you took Bill Gates' money and you made him a 6-figure earner, say he just made $100,000 a year, right? That's inconsistent with his identity.
Right.
So he is going to immediately put a plan in place.
Right.
To get back to what fits the way he sees himself. He's going to immediately get back to billionaire status.
Right.
Why? Because he has habits that's going to keep him consistent with his image.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's why you give a broke person lottery winners. You give them $50 million. What's going to happen in 3 years?
They're going to be broke.
Why? It's mentality.
Right.
They have this self-image of themselves, you know, and they keep going back to it. That's why people get out of the hood. You know, professional football players, basketball players, right? They get millions of dollars, and it's inconsistent with how they see themselves.
Right.
So they end up right back in the hood doing the same stuff they were doing before they got the money.
Yep. That's why they say a lot of people, after they play football or basketball, maybe 3 or 4 years after that, they back broke.
Yeah, back broke, back hanging with the same group of people because they didn't make that shift mentally.
Right.
You know what I mean? So success happens when you get it here first, when you get it in your mind first, when you get it in your thought process first, when your philosophy changes first, right? You get that. And that's why we go through this adversity as believers. This is why when we get the big dream, immediately we have a little bit of success, right? We got to get a little success, but when you keep going,
right?
Exactly. Right, but then we're going to some adversity is going to come up, right? Some rejection is going to come,
definitely,
right? What happened to Joseph in the Bible? Got a big dream,
right?
That boy dreamed big. I'm gonna be ruler of the country,
right?
You see what I'm saying? But what happened? His brothers sold him,
right,
into slavery. They threw him in a pit. Then they sold him into slavery for dirt cheap,
right?
Then he went into Potiphar's house. right? Got accused of a crime he didn't commit, thrown into prison, right? And this wasn't what happened over a couple months,
right?
No, this is years. These are years. You see what I'm saying? Of affliction, adversity, rejection, people constantly lying and still, and all these things on him, right?
And still having a vision of what God gave him.
Still having that vision of what God gave him. And he went from the prison to the palace. What seemed like a snap of a finger.
Right.
Like, man, Joseph was an overnight success. He went from the prison to the palace.
Right.
Like that. No, y'all didn't see the preparation.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You didn't see all that he had to go through, which was the building of his character. That was the building of a character. That was the equipping of him knowing how to handle these resources once God gave them to him.
Right, exactly. So that goes back to what we talked about. If he does not, if you don't have it in you, once you get it, it really doesn't matter. You said, best thing, lottos. People can win lotto, and most of the time, worse off than where they were beforehand.
Yeah. Family members putting lawsuits on them.
When people think about money, they think about, oh man, as soon as I get the money, I'm done. I'm good. I'm straight. But it's the character. It's about people. It's about God. But when it's about money or something else, it's not about God. So, but people got to understand that success has a price to pay with it.
Oh yeah, it's got to be paid up front and in full. There ain't no payment plans. You can't, you know what I mean? Yeah. Ain't no credit. You know what I mean? We can't put this on a credit card.
Hey, can I put it on layaway? I can put something on it.
Right. Ain't no discounts. This is not a flea market. You can't finagle the price down. It's got to be paid up front and in full.
Yeah.
It costs what it costs.
It costs what it costs. It costs what it costs.
When the last time you see Bentley throwing a holiday sale?
Oh.
Bentley on sale.
Exactly.
2 for 1. Bring us your Honda. We're going to give you $5,000 cash back. Rolls Royce ain't throwing no sales. Why? Because it costs what it costs.
Right.
Toyota, though, they got money back all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? You can steal a car, bring it in. We're going to give you $5,000 cash back. They on sale.
Oh.
Why? Because it's not worth much.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that Bentley, that Rolls Royce,
right,
that Lambo, it costs what it costs. You ain't catching this on sale, buddy. You got to pay the price up front and then full.
But they know what it's worth.
Right.
And I think we need to figure out what we're worth so we can feel like, hey, look, this is what I'm worth. You're not going to get no less than what it is.
Right.
And a lot of times I think we do that to ourselves.
Right.
We think, well, shoot, I could go for that dream, but you know what? This place, I can start working here and make $83,000, and it ain't what I want to do.
Right.
And it might be a little contradictory, and it might, I might have to not go do some things with my family, or I might have to not go to church like I need to, but I'm making $83,000.
Right.
But that's not what you're worth.
Right, that's not what you're worth. The moment you understand what you're worth, you'll stop selling your time cheap.
Oh, we're going to have to get on time on another show. We're going to get on time.
You stop selling your time cheap.
Right.
That's the one thing you can't get more of. You can make more money, right? But you can't get more time. We all get 24 hours.
Right.
And we don't know when our last 24 hours is going to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you understand there's nothing more valuable in your time, you'll stop selling it for cheap.
Shoot.
So yeah, man, let's say you just got to, you got to realize that adversity is necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. I like the way Jim Rohn said it. He said, become a millionaire. Become a millionaire, not because of the $1 million, but because who you need to become in order to generate those type of results. Who you need to become. Not what you did, but who did you become in the process? Because who you become, that's where the true value's at.
Right.
That's where the true value's at. It's in who you are. Not what you did, who you are. Because what you did is a reflection of who you are.
Right.
Convicts, what do? They commit crimes.
Right.
That's what they do. Why would you get mad at why would you get mad at an ignorant person for doing ignorant things?
Exactly.
That's what ignorant people do.
That's what,
When the last time you got mad at a bird for flying? Every time I come outside, y'all out here flying. And you mad about because birds flying. That's what birds do. That's what birds do. They fly.
Right. Right. So I understand that. So yeah.
But when somebody's success, they just do successful things.
Right.
Because that's who you are.
Right.
You know, when somebody produces results, because they're the type of person who gets results. You know, whether they be negative or positive.
Right.
You know, if somebody always cutting up, that's because of the reflection of who they are.
Right.
You know, so it's always about the who you become. And you got to look yourself in the mirror each day, and you got to ask yourself, who am I? What am I becoming?
Right.
Because who I am and what I becoming is going to determine the results I get in life. It's going to determine my lifestyle. It's going to determine the influence I have. It's going to determine how many people I have influence over. Who I become. Who I become. That's what determines it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to look at that. You got to self-evaluate. And so many people don't self-evaluate. They don't. They simply just want to evaluate themselves. They won't look at their flaws and say, okay, I need to fix this, this, and this. Because this, and this keeps causing this, and this to happen.
Right.
You know? So I think the ability to self-evaluate and then sit down and say, okay, here's a plan of action that I need to implement to make sure that I change this by this deadline. You see what I'm saying? Tony Robbins always said change happens in an instant.
Right.
There's a moment where somebody decides to stop smoking. It always happens in an instant. Change always happens in an instant. It's that preparation for change.
Right.
That takes forever.
Right. Because if you're not prepared, you're just going to keep going back.
Right.
You're going to keep losing. You haven't prepared yourself. And a lot of times, the reason why I know you can change, the reason why I know you can, because it happened to me, but I prepared myself. I read more. You know what I mean? When I was in school, I did what I needed to do to barely get by. And you saw the results.
Yeah.
You know? So when you get older and you see, hey, it's more to life than what people have seen, because it's just like the Bible. That's just like when you go to church or you talk to somebody. It's not just enough just to talk to them.
Right.
Go see for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure anybody and everybody can get a Bible, and somebody can have a discussion, and then bam, hey, go back, everything that they said, go read it.
Right.
Read it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, get your own. Go seek it.
Right.
But don't expect the results if you don't go seek it.
Right. And that brings me to the point. You know, the greatest thought of a book, the greatest thought of a minister or a teacher, a mentor, the greatest thought isn't the thoughts that they suggest.
Right.
It's not the thoughts that the book suggests.
Right.
It's the thoughts that the book inspires.
Right.
It's the inspired thought that changes your life, not the suggested thought.
Right.
Right? The whole point of this show, the locker room, is not about the thoughts we suggest.
Right.
It's about the thoughts that are inspired by the thoughts that we suggested.
Right.
That's what's going to ultimately have the big change in your life. That's what's going to be the catalyst for you going and getting what you want.
Right.
Find out what you want. Listen to people who have already done it.
Right.
And then that inspired thought.
Right.
Because that's what came from inside of you. I can only offer you what I have.
Right. Exactly.
Right? I can just suggest some thoughts based on my experiences. And hopefully when I speak to you, some thoughts are inspired in your mind, in your heart, and your emotions that inspire you to go do what you need to do for you and yours.
Right.
So it's not the suggested thought, it's the inspired thought that changes your life. Make sense?
Makes sense.
And that's what it is.